Well, it's Mike. This is my diabetes world. We're out with Nico, but I wanted to talk about brittle diabetes. And I know I've done a video, it wasn't a great video, but I did a video before about what actually is brittle. But today I want to talk about living with brittle diabetes. And I never know what's going to happen with my body. I'm prescribed insulin, a short acting insulin, so the insulin can get in my body and get out of my body. Sounds pretty good, but it doesn't always work the way it's supposed to. Now, the latest theory says that I hold on to the insulin and then it lets go. We don't know when, and so I guess it's pretty close to antibodies. And these antibodies constantly are working in my body. So, I don't necessarily get proper amounts of insulin, but yet, my insulin, the biggest thing now is my insulin level has dropped significantly lower than it should be anyone in my circumstances. I have a type 1 juvenile diabetic. And you know what? Sorry about the sunlight. It keeps peering through the trees here. But it's hard to live. I go down into low blood sugar, and I can eat so much. Now, normally, if you have a low blood sugar, you have your diet, you to eat quick acting sugar. Well, my quick acting sugar takes an awful long time to work. And I have to eat so much of it. So it's a hard carbohydrate. Now, the last time I went to, I call it diabetic daycare, but my diabetic nurse, I went into a low in her office. And, I had Coke, I had a whole bunch of things. Now, some of you are saying, oh, well, you shouldn't be eating all those things. Yes, well, if my blood sugar keeps going low, what else am I to do? Sit around the rest of my life, possibly going into a low blood sugar? Now, we've talked about what our friend, or what my friend, if you can see it over there, Nico, okay? He does an awful lot to keep me out, but I still have to have almost double meal to bring me out of a low blood sugar. And part of it could be why I'm bigger. But you know what? What else are we to do? Taking care of me first is the important. I can't work because I could be having a low come on at any time. And my low can end up where I need medical attention. For example, just before Halloween, I ended up with a severe low, and I was just racing around the store, and they finally found me twisting and doing all sorts of wheelies in my chair. And people ended up were staying out of my way. They called an ambulance, and they took myself and Nico and my chair to the hospital. And that took an awful lot of sugar. And that brought me out. And then Halloween, I was totally out of it. I just remember Halloween, I just really didn't want to do anything. And, sorry, we're in the shadow now. This could be very nerve-wracking. Now, there's no known reason why I'm doing this. Now, I could go a couple of years doing pretty well, okay, and then for some reason, I will get treated and be fine for weeks and go for a normal blood sugar. But you see, I can't work because I don't know when a blood sugar is going to go on. I don't know how long it's going to last. If people want to schedule me, they're not going to be able to schedule because they don't know what's going to happen to me. And if that's the case, if I'm customer service. Now, a number of you, have asked, why am I in a power chair? Well, it's because I have diabetic neuropathy. And the reason why I have diabetic neuropathy is because of my uncontrolled blood sugars. They have hurt the nerves in my legs. And, that can be really hard on the body. Now, I can go low, and I could eat things all over the place. I could also go high, so I would have to inject insulin. And when I inject insulin, my body saves it and uses it at weird times, and I have a severe low. So, it's not great for sleeping. The extra weight isn't great. But I use nerves my legs won't allow the nerves to be used correctly. And it's it's a hell of a time. People don't really know how bad it can be for a diabetic, especially a type 1. When you want to have sugar and you try to control it, and your body just won't allow you to utilize the sugar. But we all do the best we can. I've come up with, or I haven't come up with, the ambulance has been at my apartment a number of times, and they don't understand half the time what's going on. So I end up being taken to the hospital. Now, my biggest fear is what happens to me if I wake up in a severe low on the way to the hospital again. That's kind of an eerie feeling. You're waking up and you're listening to what's going on and you're not able to talk. And then there's the headaches. Having a low blood sugar headache is probably one of the worst headaches to have. And I know when I used to have a GP who would come and see me in the hospital, and he would always end up prescribing me Tylenol 3s for the headaches. And, that would knock me out and I'd be able to sleep. But then you'd wake up and you're kind of like, oh, what's up? You're groggy. So, part of the brittle diabetes is in 2014, I was in the hospital for 9 months. I went in there January 8th, and I was released on September 28th or something. So I had 9 months in the hospital. It was fun. It was exciting. But there was always the question, was I injecting extra insulin? And that would make a ideal reason for my conditions. And the answer to that is no. While I was in the hospital, I was put into what they call the high acuity unit. And that was where they could watch you. You kind of like were in the fishbowl. And, the thought was, oh, well, he's injecting insulin. I had a few lows. And, before that, I was in pretty much the medical overflow. I was in the medical overflow for like 2 months. But I went up there, and, there was a doctor saying, well, he doesn't need to be here. He's taking up a bed. And yes, I kind of agree with that. But let me take these off. I'm getting glare. I can't see, but they just couldn't come up with an answer. And right now, it's to just keep cutting back the insulin. So they've done now what's called a dual wave on my pump. So I get some of my insulin up straight, and then some later on. And we'll see how that comes. You know, there's only about 10% of all the diabetics in British Columbia are brittle. Well, it's probably across Canada. We'll have to check with the CDA. Sorry, I've got sleep in my eye. Now, diabetes is a cruel disease in the first place. And everyone sits there and says, oh, yes, my grandmother had, or my uncle had type 1, or had diabetes, or maybe not type 1. So, you know, we keep trying to new things, and, the latest thing that sort of came out of is maybe I need to have IV insulin all the time. Because we found in the hospital going on IV insulin solved a lot of the problems. I don't know. We'll have to see. Because I have to be able to live. And, I'd like to go out there and not necessarily worry every single day that I'm going to have a low blood sugar or a super high blood sugar. But we'll have to keep trying until we solve the issue. Well, that's trying to live lately with my brittle diabetes. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye now.